A long and imaginative essay on history, witnessing Pangu's creation of heaven and earth, experiencing the creation of humans by Nuwa, the 3 emperors and 5 emperors, and traveling throughout China for 5,000 years, all the way to the future world, traversing through life, farming, and solving cases. Its main focus is to play in the world and freely imagine. Chapter 1 Pangu Genesis 1. 3 Invitations into the Chaos World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Young man, you have finally arrived. Help me create the world. The heavy and profound call comes from a chaotic world, like the roar of a river, a sound that only giants can make. Where is this? Who are you? What's going on? Xuanhuan was startled by the sudden call and kept asking questions. This is the chaotic world, I am Pangu. The thick voice came again, like the roar of the ocean waves, followed by a uniform and deep breath. Chaos. Pangu. The groundbreaking Pangu. Isn't that right, uncle? Can we just keep quiet? Wait, am I dreaming? Xuanhuan looked bewildered and reached out to scratch his head, trying to calm himself down. Come here, let me see what you look like. As soon as the giant's voice fell, Xuanhuan felt attracted by a mysterious force and moved rapidly towards the source of the sound, with a speed that almost suffocated him. How did you look like this? I'm really disappointed. Too thin, even more disappointed. Not tall enough, too disappointed. A thunderous sound came rolling in, and the giant was clearly dissatisfied. Hey, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with being thinner? Are you discriminating against height? How many of you are there? As soon as he heard the giant pointing at his appearance, Xuanhuan, who was originally startled, calmed down a bit. He wanted to see what the giant meant, but before he could finish speaking, the giant spoke again. Did my Xuanhuan Jingqi be disturbed and summon the wrong person? Alright, then you should go back. Sorry to disturb your sleep. The giant's voice suddenly softened, and just as he finished speaking, Xuanhuan noticed a flash of light around his body, sleeping slot. Xuanhuan woke up from his dream, his upper body suddenly straightened out on the table, and he sat there in a daze. Looking around, he found himself still in the study. Dreaming, sigh. Xuanhuan let out a long sigh and rubbed his eyes. Pangu. Creating the world. Playing time travel. It's inexplicable. Just as he thought of this, Xuanhuan suddenly saw a mist flickering in front of him, and a bright light shining around his body once again. Xuanhuan disappeared from the study. Let me see who's here this time. The giant's roar rang out again. Damn it, come again, what's going on? Haven't you woken up yet? Xuanhuan shouted loudly. Obviously, Xuanhuan immediately realized that he had returned to his previous dream. This time, he was no longer so frightened, but a bit more calm. He widened his eyes and quickly scanned the surrounding environment. A hazy mist enveloped everything, and within sight was an endless gray space. No wonder the giant said this was a chaotic world. The voice is so familiar. Ah, how could it be you again? The giant's roar was filled with helplessness. Yeah, why is it me again? Who the hell are you? Tell me, why did you bring me here again? Xuanhuan pointed in the direction of the giant's roar and questioned, feeling even more helpless than the giant at this moment. Oh, I'm really sorry, young man. I'm really Pangu. The time to create heaven and earth is coming, and I need to summon a human spirit to help me complete this mission. However. But what? Did you call wrong again? Your wonton steam was disturbed again. Xuanhuan smiled bitterly. Young man, I want to correct you. It's not wonton steam, it's Xuanhuan Jingqi. The giant's voice was gentle and firm, which reminded Xuanhuan of his grandfather, a retired old teacher. Okay, no matter what anger I have, Grandpa Pangu, it seems that I'm not the person you're looking for, and I don't like your place either. You scared me, let me go now. Xiang complained while trying to clear the mist in front of him with his hand, hoping to see where Pangu was. However, he did not see any figures and instead noticed something unusual in the mist. This gray mist is very similar to ordinary mist, composed of countless fine particles floating in the air, but the particles in front of us seem to be half black and the other half white, mixed together, appearing gray and hazy. It seems that this can only be the case. Then you should go back to sleep. I can only try again. A bright light flickered around Xiang's body, disappearing once again from this boundless and intangible chaotic world of heaven and earth. Damn it, I'm dreaming, right? Please, is it really true? In the study, Xiang sat at the desk, holding his head and shaking it to wake himself up from his sleep as soon as possible. Turning his head to look out the window, the snow outside was falling tightly, and Xiang felt a slight chill. He stood up, grabbed the red windbreaker hanging from the back of the chair, opened his chest and draped it over his body, then went to the window to watch the snow. In the pitch-black night, dim streetlights lit up snowflakes, dancing wildly in the roaring north wind. Snowflakes created a chaotic world before Xiang's eyes. Why such a strange dream, really intentional? The sound of muttering to himself did not end, and Xiang disappeared from the study once again. Come on, let me see who came this time. The roar of Pangu Giant was full of anticipation, and this was his last chance to summon a human. The time to create heaven and earth would come immediately. It's me again, Grandpa Pangu. I'm Xiang back. Surprise. Once born and twice ripe, Xiang, who had entered the palace 3 times, was completely surprised. Feeling a little helpless, he even found it very funny and opened his hands, jokingly answering. At this moment, Xiang, wearing a red cloak, looked like a flame flickering in the vast expanse of ashes against an endless gray background. However, unlike the chaotic world outside his study, Xiang suddenly felt no cold or warmth here. It was a world without temperature. Well. It seems like it's destined. Now, I can only rely on you to help me, hey. Pangu's sigh made Xiang feel a bit unhappy. Grandpa Pangu, you have vast abilities. If you are not satisfied with me, it's better to hire someone else. There's no need to make things difficult for yourself. Xiang pouted impatiently, but there was a hint of wanting to stay in his heart. He wanted to see what Pangu really wanted to do and why he looked down on him. It's too late, the time is approaching, and I can only put the ducks on the shelves. Hurry up. Why put it on the shelves? Tell me clearly. Kid, do you see the breath swimming in the chaos, just the colorful airflow? Pangu seems really anxious, not giving Xiang a chance to argue. Xiang only then noticed that in the endless mist, countless faint ribbons flashed in the mist, smooth like silk, and fleeting like lightning. It's a bit interesting. Xiang frowned and muttered softly, carefully observing everything around him. Take it easy as you come, let's take a look at what kind of world this is. Even in an illusory dream, this trip is not in vain. Xiang raised his ears to listen, twitched his nose to smell, stretched out his tongue to taste, and his face and hands felt everything around him. However, apart from Pangu's breaths, which were like a rushing mountain torrent, Xiang couldn't hear any other sound, but there seemed to be an indescribable noise echoing through his head. There is no wind around, but the black and white particles that make up the fog are swimming everywhere, black like ink, white like ice, shimmering with a faint light, like crystals. These crystals fly into the nose without any odor, and there is no sensation when sliding over the skin. At this moment, Xiang doubted whether he had become a ghost, floating in the illusory underworld. Chapter 2 Pangu Genesis 2. Witnessing the creation of heaven and earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The time has come, let me bestow upon you the art of boundless illusion. Pangu let out a loud roar, but saw a golden light shooting from the front of Xiang. Hey, what's this? What kind of illusion? Are we going to do it so soon? Ah! The golden light just hit Yuxiang's forehead, and he felt a wave of heat surge from head to toe all over his body, causing him to tremble. So noisy, so glaring, so hot, so cold, what kind of smell is this? Why is it so uncomfortable? In an instant, the sensory organs of Yuxiang's entire body seemed to be thousands or even tens of thousands of times more sensitive. The once silent chaotic world suddenly became noisy, hot and cold, unpredictable, bright and dark, and full of flavors, indescribable. Don't be afraid, it will get better soon. Come over to me now, Pangu called out to Yuxiang. Sure enough, as soon as Pangu finished speaking, Yuxiang felt much more comfortable all over. He remained calm and followed the sound. In the farthest part of the originally endless gray space before him, a figure appeared faintly, obviously very huge, as if half squatting. Yuxiang wanted to walk up to the figure in order to see more clearly. The idea had just popped out of his mind, and he instantly flashed to the position he wanted to go. Sleeping trough, changing shape and shadow. Come on, really. Yuxiang stared like copper bells, clenched his fists, and shouted loudly, panting heavily. Don't you think boundless phantom sounds better, kid? Pangu said, forget it, call it whatever you like. Later, you need to use this technique to help me resist the aura of demons, ghosts, monsters, and spirits that come at any time. Demons and monsters. What other spirits are there? Where did they come from? Yuxiang stared at the still distant figure with a puzzled expression on his face. The time has come. Let's go. Pangu's roar was more intense than a volcanic eruption and more shocking than thunder in his ears, echoing throughout the chaotic world. A dazzling golden light flashed before Yuxiang's eyes, passing through his body and penetrating the entire chaotic world from left to right. In the middle of the endless gray space, a long gap was torn open, and golden light scattered from the gap. As the chaotic world was torn apart, a loud noise also shattered the silence of the world, and the originally vague nothingness began to violently shake. The black and white crystals that make up the fog dance excitedly, colliding with each other at lightning speed. Black crystals are falling down one after another, while white crystals are vigorously swimming upwards. And those colorful ribbons that used to appear and disappear in the chaotic mist also began to go crazy, endless, and swiftly gliding and flickering around the wings. Yuxiang's eyes were as sharp as an electron microscope at this moment. He noticed that these ribbons were colorful airflow, just like the various colored flames formed during the combustion of different metals in a flame reaction experiment. However, these flowing airflow were longer, more dazzling, and denser. My grandpa Pangu, what the hell are you doing? What happened? Yuxiang waved his hands, trying to catch the airflow. Open. Pangu's roar rang out again, echoing in the chaos. A more dazzling light pierced through the entire chaotic world, piercing through the entire gray space from right to left along the cracks, and a huge tearing sound echoed with the light once again. This time, Yuxiang stared intently at the gap, and in the dazzling light, he saw a sharp blade. The gap that traversed the entire chaotic world was torn wider, and a dazzling golden light poured out from the gap. At the same time, a powerful aura surged out of the crack, which was a breath of life, a precursor to a new world. Damn it! This. Yuxiang was stunned. Grandpa Pangu, don't scare me. This time, chaos began to boil, as if the boundless ocean had been boiled. The sounds of floods, waves, thunder, tearing, wind, rain, crying, and the hissing of animals. All kinds of indescribable sounds mixed together and erupted in every corner of this boiling world. The black and white crystals seemed to have gained endless energy, jumping wildly. The black crystals collide and fuse with each other, forming larger crystals. These larger crystals once again collide and fuse with each other, rapidly expanding in volume, with different shapes, and accelerating their sinking. Correspondingly, the white crystals also collided and fused, forming larger transparent crystals that were crystal clear like the purest ice. As they rose, they continued to merge and grow. And those slender, flame-like airflow became increasingly clear, and they also went crazy. Her graceful figure resembles the tentacles of an octopus, and her speed is like that of a sailfish chasing prey, swimming rapidly between black and white crystals, as if searching for something. Looking at everything in front of him, Xuanhuan worked hard to maintain his composure. At this moment, he could no longer afford to be frightened or exclaimed. Instinctively, he used the technique of boundless illusion to teleport to any place he wanted before crystals of all sizes and colorful flames collided with him. Whenever he teleported, Xuanhuan felt that the surrounding crystals and flames seemed to be stationary. Fast silver. Flash. Superman. Relative speed. Relativity. These words flashed through Xuanhuan's brain. Does the laws of physics also apply in a chaotic world? With the boundless illusion, even in this chaos, Xuanhuan felt very safe and comfortable daydreaming. Chaos is beginning to open up, heaven and earth have already separated. Child, come here, come to my side. Pangu shouted to Xuanhuan, his voice firm and powerful, yet also exuding warmth. When Xuanhuan turned his head, it seemed that the height of the crack was as high as Mount Taishan mountain he had just climbed before, and it was still expanding. The golden light gushing out from the gap gradually faded, and behind the light appeared a huge figure. As the light faded, the figure became clearer and clearer. Wow, Pangu! You're Pangu! Xuanhuan exclaimed. The golden light originally emanated from Pangu, and these rays were rapidly flowing back into his body. Xuanhuan clearly saw the figure of Pangu. Pangu was half kneeling on his right leg, with his upper body raised and his head held high, his left hand is resting on his knee, and his right hand is holding a giant axe. He was covered in golden scales all over his body, like a towering mountain peak. The scales couldn't hide the distinct muscular lines, full of strength and beauty. His chest is broad and thick, like a vast grassland, containing endless vitality. The muscles in the abdomen bulge up, like a rolling mountain range, resolute and powerful. His arms were muscular, like two winding dragons. His palms are wide and thick, with each finger thick and powerful, clearly able to easily tear everything apart. His legs were thick and powerful, full of explosive power and endurance. Firmly supporting Pangu's massive body, Pangu's deep eyes revealed a steadfast belief, as if his pupils contained endless years and vicissitudes, capable of piercing through the mist of the chaotic world. His face was square, with clear lines, thin and resolute, like a tempered iron stone. His cheeks were slightly sunken, his cheekbones were towering, and he stood firm like a mountain peak. His nose is straight, his lips are tightly closed, and the corners of his mouth are slightly upturned. Exuding a sense of confidence and composure, his short whiskers under his jaw were as stiff as steel needles, and his temples were as snowy as snow. He meticulously combed them behind his ears, and his hair was tied in a bun on top of his head, naturally hanging over his shoulders. Come on, child, the guards are by my side. Pangu looked ahead and shouted again. The black crystals have settled at the feet of Pangu, forming a black giant rock with a rough and uneven surface that is still expanding. This is the embryonic form of the earth. Pangu lifted his kneeling right leg, squatted halfway, and steadily stepped on the black rock with both feet. Suddenly, his hands lifted the giant axe above his head, and the axe instantly turned into a golden light, quickly covering Pangu's entire body. He took a deep breath, spread his fingers open, and supported the huge transparent crystal above his head. The crystal was crystal clear, smooth, and flat, which was the prototype of the sky. Kid, why are you still staring? Why don't you come over and help me? Pangu issued another command to Xuanhuan. I'll come too. Chapter 3 Pangu Genesis 3. Guarding Pangu and drinking away from demons and demons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A moment of shock swept through Xuanhuan's heart, but he immediately regained calmness. His response was firm and powerful, as if he had already made sufficient preparations. Yuxiang leaped in the direction of Pangu, and the boundless phantom brought him to Pangu's face. The airflow of Pangu's breath formed gusts of strong winds, and the red windbreaker of Yuxiang danced wildly under the strong wind, like surging waves. A spark of fire has now turned into a flame. It's so great, tell me quickly what I should do. Yuxiang's eyes were fixed on Pangu's face. The wrinkles on Pangu's forehead were like grooves on the Lus Plateau, his two thick eyebrows were like two black iron giant swords, his nose towered like a steep mountain peak, and his beard below was like a tree. Yuxiang was extremely excited, and his confusion, fear, and doubt had already dissipated. He rubbed his hands and couldn't wait to start a battle. Those breaths are rushing towards us, listen to my commands. Pangu's muscles bulged all over his body, forcefully supporting the heavens and earth to prevent them from closing. All the black crystals, big and small, in space seemed to be subjected to a huge gravitational force, rapidly colliding with the earth beneath Pangu's feet, causing the earth to rapidly expand. Similarly, the sky above Pangu's head also attracted and gathered all the transparent and shiny crystals in the space, expanding his increasingly large volume. At this moment, Yuxiang regained his senses and turned to look back. He noticed the colorful ribbons, or rather the silk-like flame airflow, as if he had finally found his target. They all eagerly flew towards Pangu and himself at full speed, in all directions, from top to bottom, endless. Come here, all of you, let's put your horses on. Yuxiang was so excited that his whole body trembled, his fists clenched tightly, his arms crossed over his chest, and he guarded his opponent like a boxer. But his inner peace was as calm as water, as if when playing games and bosses, although excited, he only had one goal in his heart. I want to kill you, which actually made him very calm. I am your flesh shield, Pangu. Even if I die, I will block these airflow for you. Yuxiang raised his chest and made a promise to Pangu without looking back. He was ready to die. Ah. Relax, child, you can't die. Listen to my mnemonic and read it out loud. Chaos is just beginning to bloom, demons are fading away, and the universe is clear. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Pangu's mouth, and he was very satisfied with the courage of the passionate young man in front of him. Oh, there's no need to die. Chaos. Chaos has just opened, demons have dispersed, and the universe is clear. Yuxiang took a breath and blurted out the mnemonic that Pangu had shouted. Just finished speaking, in the rush towards Pangu and Yuxiang, the first few pink smells either dissipated without a trace or bounced back like hitting an invisible wall. Spell attack. Haha. Yuxiang felt like a wizard in the game, capable of long-range attacks, both delighted and curious. Those pink scents are the temptation of demons, the aura of demons. Then read. Heaven and earth have no limits, endless destruction of demons, cleansing the heavens and earth. Pangu issued another command. Heaven and earth are boundless, endless destruction of demons, cleansing the heavens and earth. Yuxiang blurted out once again. A few black breaths seemed to be approaching Yuxiang, but as soon as the mnemonic came out, they burst like glass, shattering into powder and quickly dissipating. However, countless black breaths continued to surge in the distance. What is this black scent? They are the erosion of demons and the aura of demons. Note that the aura of ghosts and monsters is coming, and red. The radiance of heaven and earth, the ghosts and monsters of the underworld, will fly and disappear. The radiance of heaven and earth, the ghosts and monsters of the underworld, flying in ashes and disappearing in smoke. Yuxiang teleported to the right side of Pangu using the technique of boundless illusion, while reciting the mnemonic. A few blue and brown smells collided from the right side towards the golden light shield that enveloped Pangu, and were bounced back. However, as soon as the Hanxiang mnemonic was played, they immediately dissipated without a trace. Well done, child. The blue ones are entangled by ghosts, and the brown ones are invaded by monsters. They always coexist and perish together. Another thought. Create heaven and earth, let the spirits and evil retreat, and all things return to their true selves. Pangu remained half-squatting, firmly supporting the increasingly vast world. Opening up the heavens and earth, dispelling all evil spirits, and bringing all things back to their true selves. When Xuanhuan shouted this mnemonic, all the green breath in the space retreated backwards and disappeared in the distance, like a group of animals frightened by natural enemies or obedient children, hearing their mother's call and leaving. Everyone was scared away. Are you so cowardly? It's so easy. Xuanhuan smiled proudly. They are the confusion of the essence, just drive them away, they cannot be eliminated. Pangu explained, note that the remaining 4 types of white, yellow, purple, and red breath are the qi of immortals, Taoism, and Buddhism. I need to let them all enter my body, and remember the mnemonic. Immortals, Taoism, and Buddhism, the 4 energies are unified, creating heaven and earth, and infinite creation. Immortals and Buddhas, the 4 energies are unified, creating heaven and earth, and infinite creation. Xuanhuan shouted this mnemonic without hesitation. Countless white, yellow, purple, and red breath, originally drifting apart, quickly gathered together to form a dazzling golden light. This beam of light flew up and down like a giant dragon, suddenly rushing towards Pangu, passing through the golden light shield transformed from the giant axe, and entering his body from his chest. Get up! Pangu shouted and unleashed an endless force. His palms touched the already boundless sky, his arms suddenly stretched out, the upper muscles of his legs bulging, stomping on the heavy ground beneath his feet, lifting his head, chest, and waist bulging. Pangu suddenly stood up, standing between heaven and earth, becoming the only pillar that separated them. His tall and burly figure, deep eyes like the sea, and the roar of his breath obscured all the noise. At this moment, Pangu's body began to grow continuously, widening the distance between heaven and earth, and the heavens and earth were also constantly expanding, becoming thicker and wider. I understand, I know what to do now. Look at me, I have it easy. Xuanhuan looked up at Pangu, who was constantly increasing in height. At this moment, he only needed to resist the attacks of the remaining 4 atmospheres for Pangu. He was dressed in a red windbreaker, as if wearing a fiery battle robe, diligently shuttling around Pangu, like a torch, illuminating every corner. The 4-color aura of demons and ghosts is still wandering at lightning speed, surging from all directions, constantly trying to break through the golden light shield around Pangu's body, intending to enter his body. But as long as there is the aura of demons and monsters approaching Pangu, Xuanhuan will teleport in front of these auras and recite the mnemonic. Heaven and earth are beginning to open, demons are fading away, and the world is clear and clear. Heaven and earth are boundless, endlessly eliminating demons and cleansing the heavens and earth. The radiance of heaven and earth, the ghosts and monsters of the underworld, flying in ashes and disappearing in smoke. With the sound of mnemonics, the aura of demons and monsters either dissipates or disappears. You did a good job, young man. It seems that my choice is the right one. Pangu looked at the feathers flying back and forth like little bees, feeling very cute and couldn't help but praise them. Really, Pangu, it seems like you didn't have a choice, so you left me behind, right? You've been tossing and turning me around 2 or 3 times, forgetting so quickly. Xuanhuan grinned and frowned, speaking casually with a hint of dissatisfaction on his face. Dealing with the aura of demons and monsters is very easy for him. Well, this can be considered as my 3rd visit to the thatched cottage. Looking at the thatched cottage 3 times. Do you also understand that? I have opened up the world, created all things for me, and everything in the future is in my heart. Pangu smiled heartily. That's true. However, Grandpa Pangu, how long do we have to resist? 18,000 years. Pangu replied. Isn't it, this? It's been too long, isn't it? Xuanhuan is not mentally prepared for a prolonged battle. Don't be in a hurry, don't be in a hurry, kid. Remember, your struggle with them has just begun. Pangu answered calmly and patiently, as if 18,000 years were nothing. Just started. What do you mean? Is it more than 18,000 years? Xuanhuan was puzzled. In Xuanhuan's view, although it is simple to resist demons and monsters, it is also extremely honorable to guard Pangu, but constantly nagging mnemonics is indeed a bit boring. Pangu didn't answer, he continued to grow taller and taller. Okay, although it's a bit boring, fortunately it's simple enough, let's just think of it as playing games, said Xuanhuan to himself. You should be aware that the aura of these demons and monsters will become increasingly cunning, and you must not take it lightly. Pangu reminded Xuanhuan, once any aura is missed, it may enter my body, posing a hidden danger to the subsequent creation of all things. Got it. Don't worry, with me around, I won't let any monsters go. Xuanhuan clearly became more and more confident, shifting his form and shadow around Pangu, firmly guarding him. Pangu grows 1 zhang every day, the sky rises 1 zhang every day, and the earth thickens 1 zhang every day. In this chaotic world, no matter how long the time may be, it passes like lightning and flint. 18,000 years have passed. Chapter 4. Pangu Creation 4. Mythology does not deceive people, Pangu transforms into all things. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Child, I'm tired. It's time to take a break. Pangu's voice seemed a bit tired. Upon hearing the sound, Xuanhuan could see that Pangu's figure remained tall and majestic, and his muscular lines became even rougher and harder under the polishing of time. But his hair and beard were as white as snow, like a snow-covered mountain top and a waterfall hanging down for 9 days. Time has engraved deep wrinkles on Pangu's face, like mysterious words on ancient rocks. His eyes were deeply embedded in wrinkles, still shining with determination, but they had revealed an indescribable fatigue and vicissitudes. After standing tall for 18,000 years, Pangu was really tired. 18,000 years have passed like this. This is too fast, isn't it? Xuanhuan sighed, everything was so unbelievable, but at the same time, he felt like he was still unsatisfied. The aura of demons and monsters was almost wiped out by Xuanhuan, and only a few scattered auras could be seen between heaven and earth. They timidly wandered in the distance, afraid to approach Xuanhuan and Pangu. Child, get closer to me, Pangu called out to Xuanhuan, I am about to leave and create all things. What do you mean? Are you saying you're going to die like in mythology? Don't worry, mythology is full of lies. Of course, Xuanhuan knew the myth of Pangu creating heaven and earth, but at this moment, he couldn't believe that Pangu was leaving him so soon. More importantly, without Pangu, where would he go? That's not a myth. Yes, I'm about to die. Pangu's answer was firm and calm, but his eyes were full of determination. There was no fear or hesitation on his face, and his deep eyes showed a calm and solemn demeanor. Before Xuanhuan could speak, Pangu took a deep breath and gently lifted his chest, as if gathering all his life force. He let out a resounding roar from heaven and earth. Heaven and earth have settled, my body has turned into dust, and all things have risen and thrived endlessly. As the roar echoed between heaven and earth, Pangu's body slowly began to lose its strength. His tall and majestic body tilted forward like a huge mountain peak. The first inch of muscles in his arms were relaxing, each breath slowing down, as if declaring an end to this new world and summoning a beginning. Pangu, what are you doing? Xuanhuan looked at Pangu in terror and involuntarily clenched his fists. Thank you, my child, for your guard. Pangu's legs began to tremble, carrying the weight for too many years, and now they can finally be put down. His knees slowly bent, and his right knee suddenly knelt down on the ground, causing his huge upper body to sink. His hands immediately supported his knees and stabilized his body. Pangu. Pangu. I. Xuanhuan looked up at Pangu's weathered face, with tears in his eyes. He was at a loss and didn't know what else he could do for Pangu. "Child, be careful of those smells, don't let them harm you." Pangu still stared into the distance with firm and deep eyes, his voice somewhat weak. Xuanhuan turned around and saw 4 huge breaths flying towards Pangu at lightning speed, getting closer and closer. Originally, the remaining breath had already tangled together, merging into 4 even thicker air currents, like ancient giant pythons. They wanted to launch their final attack while Pangu was weakest. "Come on, everyone. Chaos is beginning to bloom, demons are fading away, and the universe is clear." Xuanhuan wiped away his tears and shouted out the mnemonic loudly. He wanted to turn all the anger in his heart into sound waves and pour them out. The pink demonic aura that rushed to the front was instantly shattered and dissipated invisibly. Subsequently, 2 blue and brown pythons suddenly attacked from the left and right sides of Pangu. The radiance of heaven and earth, the ghosts and monsters of the underworld, and the ashes and smoke disappear. Xuanhuan unleashed an unbounded illusion at such a fast speed that he seemed to be able to separate himself, appearing almost simultaneously in front of both ghost and strange auras. With the sound of his mnemonic, the 2 auras immediately disintegrated, dissipating like dust without a trace. Heaven and earth have no limits, endless destruction of demons. Xuanhuan was about to finish reciting the mnemonic when he suddenly realized that the original black magic had disappeared without a trace. He quickly scanned every corner of the space, teleporting to every corner around Pangu's body, afraid that the black python would suddenly appear silently, but he did not notice any trace. Where exactly did it hide? Xuanhuan felt uneasy and his voice trembled slightly. This demonic energy is the most cunning. It has been lurking since the beginning of chaos. Pangu's voice became even weaker, constantly absorbing energy from the earth's crystal elements. Dormant and growing. Pangu hung his head wearily, and the golden light surrounding his body quickly faded. His voice was heavy and slow, as if every word carried 1,000 pounds of weight, filled with the weight and helplessness of endless years. Xuanhuan gazed at Pangu's haggard figure, tears silently streaming down his eyes. "Don't leave, Pangu. Tell me what I'm going to do." Xuanhuan felt a deep sense of helplessness, losing Pangu's guidance and feeling at a loss. The sun, moon, stars, and rivers are shaped by the 4 poles, the mountains and rivers are diverse, and the rivers flow forever, the essence returns to its original state, and all sentient beings are immortal, the 5 elements spirit pearl, time and space crisscross. Pangu slowly closed his eyes, raised his head, and spread his arms, as if embracing the whole world. With his last breath, he shouted out his prayers and calls for a new world. Pangu. Xuanhuan's voice was hoarse, tears welled up in his eyes, despair and helplessness as he witnessed the passing of Pangu. Pangu's majestic body began to slowly and solemnly fall backwards, his beard flying, trying to hide the fatigue and aging on his face. At this moment, countless emerald green ribbons suddenly flashed between heaven and earth, dancing lightly throughout the entire space, like cute elves. A group of them flew to the back of Pangu at lightning speed, holding on to his accelerating body and trying their best to slow down the speed of his fall. They are protecting Pangu, like a group of flying birds desperately lifting up the collapsing mountain peak. "Jingqi, it's Jingqi. That's right, it's them." Xuanhuan's voice was filled with shock and awe. He stared intently at the miracle before him, recalling the spirit he had driven away before. His doubts and emotions left him almost motionless. Originally, these fluttering spirits were the key to Pangu's creation of all things, only they could give all things true life, bloom with vitality, and make this new world full of vitality. Bomb. However, while Xuanhuan was immersed in amazement, a thunderous roar suddenly came from behind him, cold and terrifying, making him shudder. Before he could turn around, a black smoke shadow swept over Xuanhuan's head and headed straight towards Pangu. Magic aura. Damn it. Xiang looked up and exclaimed in surprise, his face turning pale, his eyes wide open, full of fear. He gathered all his strength, cast the technique of boundless illusion, and instantly flashed in front of the demonic energy. Heaven and earth are boundless, endlessly eliminating demons and cleansing the heavens and earth. The mnemonic fell, but Xiang was stunned. His expression froze as he realized that everything was too late. The black python with a demonic aura engulfed Xiang's entire body, giving him no chance. Before the chant could be heard, it had already broken into Pangu's chest. Ah! Damn it! Xiang roared up to the sky, clenched his fists, and fiercely smashed them into his chest. Tears of despair and unwillingness poured out from the corners of his eyes. At the same time, after enduring the heavy blow of the demonic energy, Pangu's entire body plummeted and fell to the ground. His muscles, which had been tense for 18,000 years, finally relaxed completely at this moment. Pangu's pale long hair gently slid down from his face, revealing a calm and serene expression. A faint smile even appeared at the corner of his mouth, as if he didn't care about the final blow, and it seemed to indicate that he had already anticipated the end. Where exactly are you going? Tell me, where should I go? Xiang murmured softly, gazing at Pangu's serene face. The transcendent tranquility had a mysterious power that quickly dissipated Xiang's inner self-blame and pain, followed by a clear reflection on the future. Between heaven and earth, only Xiang and countless green elves are guarding Pangu at this moment. Soon, Xiang witnessed firsthand the miracles recorded in mythology. Pangu's eyes emitted a dazzling light, instantly transforming into the sun and moon, flying at lightning speed towards the already unpredictable sky, bringing a cycle of light and darkness to the earth. Every drop of sweat on his body turned into a star, flickering and following the sun and moon. His body rapidly expanded, his limbs stretched out, becoming the four poles of the earth. East, west, south, and north, every inch of his skin is covered with black earth, smooth areas turn into vast plains and rivers, wrinkles turn into towering mountains and deep valleys. With countless postures, his blood was surging, either turning into a trickle or a winding river for thousands of miles, flowing endlessly. His breath turned into wind and rain, lightning and thunder. His whole body's hair turned into grasslands and lush forests scattered throughout the earth. Chapter 5. Rabbit Barbecue is the first lunch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha, actually. Pangu didn't leave. Xiang overlooks the beautiful and boundless land, like a colorful spring painting unfolding before his eyes. His eyes were full of awe, but his heart was more filled with joy and excitement, like a carefree child who accidentally discovered a secret world that only he knew. Mine, these are all my rivers and mountains, Xiang exclaimed excitedly, Pangu, thank you. He couldn't wait to teleport to this land transformed from Pangu, standing on a flat grassland and looking around. Everything was so beautiful, but it seemed like something was missing. Amidst confusion, the green essence that once floated between heaven and earth was like a returning bird, flying towards the earth and landing on grasslands, flowers, forests, rivers, rocks. They even drifted towards the white snow on the mountaintops, lonely cacti in the desert, rolling waves in the ocean. These countless green elves slowly disappeared, blending into everything they touched. Live. Xiang instantly understood why Pangu said it was impossible to eliminate these essence energies. They were originally the souls of nature. I see. I told you earlier. Xiang looked at the world in front of him, feeling somewhat unfamiliar yet so familiar. In a distant tree, a large group of birds flew out with sharp edges, followed by a dull tiger roar. A dozen deer of all sizes panicked and jumped out of the forest, flying over a small river and running horizontally not far from Xiang. There was a rustling sound in the nearby grass, and suddenly a few gray rabbits rushed out and fled in all directions. One of them suddenly collided with a small tree, and with a loud bang, it lay straight on the ground, motionless. A sharp hissing came from the air, and Xiang looked up. Several eagles were hovering in the low sky, leisurely overlooking the earth. Suddenly, one of them plunged diagonally and crashed into a clearing covered with dry grass in the distance. Zhi. Zhi. Yuxiang followed the sound and saw an unnamed insect jumping over the gray rabbit lying on the ground. Yuxiang stood in place, hands akimbo, standing straight, letting the red windbreaker dance lightly in the wind. The world is so big, I need to take a good look. His smile was full of indescribable excitement, and his eyes flickered with curiosity and longing for this new world. However, it's important to first solve the problem of food and clothing. Ha, it's just you. Yuxiang turned his head and stared straight at the little gray rabbit on the ground, swallowing saliva and touching his stomach. He bent down and picked up the rabbit, swaying in front of him with a proud expression on his face. Waiting for the rabbit, it's not my fault. He came to the river and soaked the rabbit in water, washing it back and forth several times. Where's the knife? Where's the pot? Where are chopsticks? Where is the fire? How could these things be so difficult for Yuxiang? When he was bathing the rabbit, he looked around to see if there were any tools available. These pebbles are quite good. The river is clear and bottomed out, covered with pebbles of all sizes. Yuxiang picked up a few round and large pieces in the river, and with great effort, knocked out a small dagger. Although the shape was not perfect, it was still sharp enough to be used for peeling and cutting meat. With the tool for weighing hands, the next step was a fierce operation like a tiger, and in the blink of an eye, a naked and hairless rabbit was picked up. Boil soup or braised in soy sauce. Damn it, there's nothing in oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. I guess no matter how you cook it, it'll taste bad. Forget it, as long as it doesn't die. Looking at the tender rabbit meat in front of him, Yuxiang felt a bit depressed. It's a pity that such top-notch ingredients cannot be fully utilized. He originally planned to carve out a stone pot and make a stone pot of fresh rabbit soup, but he was already working hard. It was almost noon and it was too late, so he had to wait until later to polish it. So he touched a flat thin stone slab by the river and carefully tapped the edges to create a natural circular baking tray. It seems that we can only have a barbecue for lunch. Yuxiang lifted the slate baking tray with both hands and gazed at his masterpiece with satisfaction. A stonemason who doesn't know how to kill rabbits is not a good chef. It's not as good now. For Yuxiang, the principle of starting a fire from wood is as simple as ever. He learned it when he was in kindergarten, and as a male STEM worker, he is quite confident in his hands-on ability. As a result, the small case that was originally thought to be easy became the biggest challenge, because it was not easy to operate and took him a lot of effort. Yuxiang picked up a pile of dry grass leaves, folded a few appropriately thick and elastic twigs, and pulled off a few thin ones from the vines wrapped around the tree. Based on his memory, he made a seemingly professional tool and tried it more than 10 times. Is it so difficult to deal with the sleeping trough? Yuxiang was a bit furious and sat down on the ground, raising his hand and about to throw this useless thing, but in the end, he managed to suppress the evil fire in his heart. There was no other way, and now that was the only move. Is this considered a wilderness survival? Forget it, let's just consider it as a skill brush. Yuxiang comforted himself in his heart and came to the river to wash his face and drink a handful of clear water. After a brief rest, the tools underwent a scientific upgrade and transformation. The effect is significant. He firmly holds down the top support block and pulls the middle bow-shaped rod back and forth. The rattan drives the drill pipe to rotate quickly, and the bottom end of the drill pipe rubs against the fire plate at high speed. Dry grass leaves are placed at the friction point. This is the power of knowledge. Technology is the primary productive force. Feather Xiang ignored the sweat all over his head and excitedly shouted and shouted. A wisp of white smoke rose from the grass leaves, and soon a faint spark was seen. Yuxiang suddenly bent down, pouted his mouth, and gently blew air at the spark. There's fire. Yuxiang jumped up excitedly, quickly adding more grass leaves and branches, and the fire grew stronger and stronger. The first fire of the new world ignited, bigger and redder than the windbreaker of Yuxiang. It's really fragrant. Damn it, it's so hot. Beside the bonfire, Yuxiang squatted on the ground, flipping a small piece of rabbit meat in his mouth. His squinted eyes stared straight at the stone grill, and the rabbit meat on top was sizzling, emitting oil that almost covered the entire slate. He waved his left hand and chased away the smoke that rushed to his face. In his right hand, he held a pair of chopsticks made of long branches and flipped the rabbit meat one by one, skillfully. No seasoning was added. How could it be so delicious? It's even more delicious than the spicy dry pot rabbit I used to eat. Yuxiang put another piece of rabbit meat in his mouth, closed his eyes, and savored the taste. This rabbit meat is charred on the outside and tender on the inside, with a plump texture, soft, glutinous, and refreshing taste. It is fresh, sweet, and has a long-lasting taste. Damn it, absolutely organic rabbit meat, native. The rabbit meat I used to eat must have been fed with feed. The spring sunshine is not hot, but accompanied by gusts of fresh breeze. Yuxiang sat by the campfire, leisurely savoring the delicious food, eating until only a rabbit head was left. There was really no meat to pick, and he was willing to give up. Yuxiang is indeed hungry, but he is not in a hurry. He has enough time. Hiccup. I belched several times in a row. What's good to eat tonight? Yuxiang leaned against a big tree, comfortably closing his eyes and recuperating in the shade, picking his teeth with a thin branch, his tongue occasionally licking between his teeth, savoring the scent of flesh between his lips and teeth. Although he had already had a full meal and his stomach was so full that he couldn't walk, he knew he had to make sure the dinner was settled as soon as possible. The sun has already tilted towards the west for more than half, and once it's night and there are no lights or electricity, it will only be pitch black. If you search for food at that time, it's not a good choice. Deer meat may be too firewood, fish meat may not be liked, wild boars are too big, lamb meat can be fishy, we can't catch tigers, that's to protect animals, we can't act recklessly. Yuxiang was planning dinner in his mind, but the white noise from nature around him was too hypnotic. In a daze, he fell asleep. Chapter 6. Be careful. You're being targeted. Be careful. You are being watched. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I count to 3, please come out quickly. 1. 2. Bang bang bang, a rapid knocking sound on the door. Outside the door of Yuxiang's study, my mother held a clothes hanger in her right hand and raised it high in her left hand, raindrops falling on the door. I haven't seen your ghost shadow for 2 days. Where are you going to die? 3. Open the door quickly. My mother's anger tank is already full. In the past 2 days, she couldn't find any sign of Yuxiang inside or outside. However, early this morning, when she saw the door of her study closed again and the sound of Yuxiang snoring could be heard inside, she finally erupted. Get up quickly, turtle son, you're so disrespectful. Bang 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 bang. In the study, Yuxiang and Yi were lying on the sofa, originally snoring loudly, but suddenly they were awakened by the rapid knocking on the door. Are we going to eat now? In a dream of fragrant meat, I sat up startled, and the bright window invited me into the morning light. Feather Xiang looked around with sleepy eyes and found himself still in the study, with the computer screen on his desk still lit up, which was a bit dazzling. The snow outside the window has stopped and the sky is already bright, but the glass windows still reflect the light of the street lamps, which is early morning. Here, Mom, stop knocking, I'm here. Yuxiang quickly got up and rushed to the door, grinning and carefully opening the lock, but only opened one crack. He pressed his body against the door and looked at his mother through the crack. Mom, I opened the door. Don't hit me. Ghost son, open the door. Mom stared and let out another roar. Yuxiang obediently flashed back, pushed the door open, frowned, and grinned with a row of white teeth. Mom slapped the door open and strode into the study. With a snap, he lifted the hanger and slammed it fiercely onto Yuxiang's windbreaker, crisp and agile, without any hesitation. Where did you die? Where did you die? Speak up. Mom kept talking while hitting, with an angry expression on her face as she asked. Mom, don't be angry, I said. After 3 hangers were hung up, his mother paused for a moment. Yuxiang seized the opportunity and grabbed his mother's right hand tightly, bending over to apologize repeatedly, looking at his mother with a playful smile. Mom glared at Yuxiang with a slanted gaze, vigorously swinging her right hand, but Yuxiang grabbed too tightly and couldn't break free, snorting. So, where have you been these days? You don't bring your phone, and you can't find anyone. Mom and Dad are so worried. Speaking later, my mother's tone calmed a bit and her eyes turned a little red. Mom, I have to say that I went to create a new world. You definitely won't believe it, hee. Yuxiang shook his mother's hand like a 3 or 4-year-old child, and said with a silly smile. His mother, who had just calmed down, became angry again. Creating heaven and earth. I think you want to go up and down. Pop pop. Mom grabbed the hanger on her right hand with her left hand and slammed it hard against Yuxiang's windbreaker. Mom, hitting me doesn't hurt at all, hee. Yuxiang grabbed his mother's hands and still had a playful smile on his face. He knew that no matter how he explained it now, her mother would not believe it. Playing tricks would definitely be the most effective way at this time. Look at you, you're so obsessed that your eyes get annoyed. Tell me quickly, where have you been? Have you caused any trouble? Mom couldn't move her hands, so she continued to stare and curse. I was taken by a friend to play games, and later. He took me to the countryside to have barbecue, but I ended up playing too much, so. Which snowy day to eat barbecue outside? Nonsense, not a single word of truth. Friend. Who are you again? Male or female? What kind of game are you playing? You've forgotten even your parents. Mom's questioning speed was like a machine gun shooting, but the firepower was clearly insufficient. Watching her son stand completely in front of her, playfully playing with her, her anger gradually began to decline. As long as my son returns home safely, it's easy to say, but it doesn't matter where he went. Male, a new friend you don't know either. Mom, I promise there won't be another time, and I won't dare to do it again in the future. My good mom, hee. Yuxiang answered slowly while placing his hands on his mother's shoulders and gently pinching her, as if she were just a child. Male. Humph, if only you were playing with a girlfriend, I wouldn't even care if you ran away with her. Mom glared at Yuxiang in frustration and impatiently patted down Yuxiang's hand. All right, brush my teeth and wash my face, go downstairs for breakfast. I have to go to work later. A plate of delicate steamed stuffed buns is steaming in the middle of the table. Yuxiang and his mother have a cup of purple rice soybean milk in front of them, which is also steaming. I'm worried to death these 2 days. I'm not in the mood to make breakfast for you. Your fat aunt sent this steamed bun and soybean milk this morning. Mom pointed to the buns and gestured for Yuxiang to eat more. It must be chicken and mushroom filling, she knows I like this. However, it's still not as delicious as the one you made, Mom. Hee. You're so slick. Her chubby aunt is also worried about you. By the way, Lingling seems to be at home too. Take her to watch a movie or something today, don't always. Got it. By the way, where's my dad? Xuanhuan quickly changed the topic. He didn't want to mention that mother tiger. It was a nickname that Xuanhuan had given Linglinki since childhood. Although they grew up together from a young age, they never dealt with each other, and Xuanhuan was often bullied by her. Your dad went to work before dawn this morning. Recently, there was an accident at their workplace, and he's so busy. If it weren't for worrying about you, he wouldn't have been planning to come back last night. Xuanhuan's father works in the National Center for Applied Nanoscience, NCN, a state-key laboratory under the Academy of Sciences. He is the deputy director of the laboratory's technology department. He is the main leader of the entire technical team of nanomaterial application experiments. What can happen to them there? It's like a military base. Xuanhuan didn't believe that anything big would happen at his father's workplace, because he had been to that national laboratory once before. The security work there was extremely strict, with layers of checks, and every outpost was highly guarded by live ammunition guards. Although Xuanhuan only stayed in the reception hall for a while, the security level there was also the highest he had ever seen, and in his opinion, it should be the safest place. The laboratory is located in the Science and Technology Research and Development Park of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Although it is called a laboratory, it is actually a complex of buildings covering an extremely vast area, with more than 10 buildings of various sizes inside. The main building is particularly eye-catching, although not the tallest, it is at least 60 meters tall. From above, it appears as a regular hexagon, with each vertex of the hexagon having a circular building with a diameter of about 30 meters, which looks like a carbon nanostructure. The 6 circular buildings represent 6 carbon atoms. The 6 exterior facades of the main building are all covered with regular hexagonal frames, and from the outside, it is not clear how many floors there are. Last night, your father was very worried about you, so he told me about this matter. A colleague from their company disappeared in the first half of the year, but he hasn't been found yet. As a result, a few days ago, an old classmate of his at Tsinghua University, who is also a professor at Tsinghua University, suddenly disappeared. Missing. Who's missing? Xuanhuan chewed on the buns, which were indeed filled with chicken and mushrooms. His favorite was watching his mother curiously. How do I know? You can't talk about this everywhere. Your father is afraid that you will also be kidnapped, so let me quickly find you out. You really don't make people worry. Mother held soybean milk in her hand and looked kindly at her son who was devouring. Her anger had completely gone to zero. I'm not a big professor, and even the kidnappers can't keep an eye on me. Mom, you can eat too. Alright, I'll eat on the way later. Our hospital has had a lot of breathing patients recently, and I need to go there early. You also need to be careful yourself. Remember to wear a mask when going out, don't keep drilling into people, and bring water and clothes wherever you go. Mom stood up and placed 2 buns in the lunch box, while admonishing. Okay, I see. Mom, you need to be more careful. Xuanhuan is indeed very worried about his mother. She is the head nurse of the municipal pulmonary hospital and has a heavy workload. He has always hoped that her mother will retire soon. Watching his mother leave the door, Xuanhuan went upstairs to his study. There was no drowsiness at all. Sitting at the desk, Xuanhuan held the mouse and slid the cursor towards the Steam icon. Suddenly, the screen instantly turned blue, with a row of white English letters flashing at the top. Be careful. You are being watched. Be careful. You're being targeted. Chapter 7. Bad, oh my god. Why is the magic malfunctioning? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sleeping trough. Xuanhuan swung his right hand suddenly, as if tapping a malfunctioning mouse. As a result, a huge pain came from his hand, as if he had been hit by an electric current, causing him to suddenly open his eyes. Under the big tree, Xuanhuan lay on the soft grass, still wearing the bright red windbreaker. In the afterglow of the sunset, it seemed like an unburned campfire. The right hand unconsciously rested on a protruding tree root, causing numbness in all 4 fingers and a slight tremble in the little finger. Isn't it? Why are you still here? Xuanhuan murmured to himself, realizing that he was still immersed in the new world created by Pangu. He couldn't help feeling a bit dazed, making it unclear whether it was a dream or reality for a moment. His sleepy eyes were filled with disbelief. The nearby fire was not completely extinguished yet, and several small tongues of fire playfully leaped up, stubbornly licking the bottom of the stone baking tray, as if savoring the aftertaste of lunch. The river in the distance is like a huge mirror, quietly reflecting a golden-orange sunset. A few crisp bird songs shattered this tranquility, and several black bird shadows, like withered leaves blown off by the wind, lightly sank into the forest further across the river. On the horizon, the sun seemed to be playing hide-and-seek with Xuanhuan, only revealing the upper half of his face, carefully and reluctantly hiding under the horizon. Do you want to mess with me like this? Haven't you gone home yet? Xuanhuan stood up with one bone, rubbed his eyes, patted the grass leaves and twigs on his body, looking incredulous. He can hardly determine where he is now. Damn it, which one is a dream? He rubbed his face with both hands, spread his arms, and stretched his legs, trying to dispel the last wave of drowsiness. He squatted down next to the campfire, carefully lifted the baking tray from the 4 stone pillars with 2 branches, and stirred the fire. With some dry firewood added, the fire started again, and a wave of heat hit his face in an instant. This taste. Still so fragrant. Hey, it seems like this is not a dream. Indeed, the lingering fragrance of barbecue still lingers, and the hot and spicy barbecue brought by the campfire is so real that Xuanhuan has to accept that everything in front of him is a fact, and the world he is in is not a dream. That's just a dream. Mom. Baozi. Was being targeted. What's going on here? Xuanhuan's mind was filled with question marks, but as dusk fell and the sky grew darker, the coolness hit. He realized that he must find a safe place to live as soon as possible, otherwise in this wilderness, if there were any wolves, tigers, or leopards staring at him, it would be cold. The campfire was big enough and bright enough. With the light of the fire, Xuanhuan brought more firewood to the edges of the surrounding woods, which was enough to burn for a whole night. After a busy meal, he felt his mouth dry and his tongue dry, so he ran to the river and drank a few sips happily. The river water was clear and sweet, and his hot body suddenly felt much more comfortable. Rural women, mountain springs, some fields. Do we have to cultivate and cultivate here? Will we end up alone? It's over, this life can be considered over. Xuanhuan looked at himself in the water and smiled self-deprecatingly. He thought of Robinson, who survived on an isolated island, the isolated Sentinel people, and even the Golden Lion King Sun, who was trapped on Ice and Fire Island. It's good to live in this paradise for a lifetime, but it's too lonely to be alone. While he was lost in thought, a cold wind blew from the opposite bank of the river, causing Xuanhuan to shudder. He looked up and saw the distant dense forest, shrouded in darkness, appearing particularly eerie and terrifying. He quickly returned to the campfire, pondering whether it was possible to set up a simple tent to prevent insect and snake bites, and to keep out the wind and cold. He needs more large branches with dense foliage, which are not lacking, but they all grow high and difficult to reach. Looking at the branches of the tall tree, Xuanhuan suddenly remembered the teleportation technique bestowed upon him by Pangu. Unbounded phantom, idiot, what else are you waiting for at this time? He slapped his head and forgot about this great move for a moment, which was truly regrettable. With the help of the firelight, he fixed his gaze on a tree fork that could stand on, and Xuanhuan looked forward to flying there in an instant. He leaped forward, his red windbreaker soaring into the sky. An old song popped up in my mind. I want to fly higher, fly higher. Xuanhuan did indeed fly, and indeed flew quite high, but his agile posture did not appear on the tree fork as desired. With a splash. Oh my, lying down, he he's in excruciating pain. Under the tree, Yuxiang's face was buried in the grass, with his hands on the ground, knees on the ground, and his buttocks facing upwards, demonstrating a standard dog eating shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why is the magic malfunctioning? The song in his mind instantly switched to this song, Colorful Wings. At this moment, waves of gurgling bird calls echoed in the treetops, the campfire crackled and clattered, and a fish leaped out of the calm water in the distance, seemingly mocking Yuxiang's embarrassment. What the hell are you doing with airplanes? What about spells? What about the agreed-upon boundless illusion? Yuxiang slowly flipped over and sat up, with his hands behind him, looking up at the branch of the tree. His face was covered in leaves of grass, he frowned, his nose twitched slightly, and he looked aggrieved. He couldn't believe that the boundless illusion had failed, and he had become a mortal with a physical body. No, Grandpa Pangu, what are you doing? You can't cross the river and demolish the bridge. Yuxiang wanted to cry without tears and shouted indignantly. He stood up helplessly, patted the dust off his body, and wiped his face. Thinking back in the morning, I still had extraordinary magical powers, jumping up and down, helping Pangu create a new world. Wait, where did I fall from? How could it hurt so much? Suddenly, Yuxiang seemed to realize something. He remembered when he used to play basketball and dunk, even if he was hit and thrown to the ground by someone else, he never felt so painful. Just now. How high did I fly? He looked at the tree in front of him with confusion, trying to recall where he had jumped just now. Damn it, this must be 5 meters, am I so awesome? Yuxiang stared at a thick horizontal branch on the tree, recalling that at the moment when he was about to fall, he had tried to grab that branch, but was almost there. That branch is at least 5 meters away from the ground, including Yuxiang's height, which means that his feet were about 2 meters above the ground just now, and he just jumped lightly. I'll go, if it's really that high, I'll just go play in the NBA. Yuxiang decided to give it a try. His goal was to grab the 5-meter-tall thick branch, but this time he planned to run up and take off to see how high he could jump. Next, he demonstrated a professional high jump competition preparation move. His eyes reflected the flickering campfire, his gaze firmly fixed on the branch, and he slowly retreated a dozen steps, adjusting the distance with the branch to reach a suitable position, hands crossed at the waist, feet lightly stomped the ground, testing the hardness of the ground. Next, place your left foot in front and your right foot behind, and firmly nail your legs to the ground. Subsequently, the upper body leaned back slightly, the left leg straightened, the left heel lightly pointed, the right leg slightly bent, and the right foot fully grounded, taking over the weight of the entire body. Yuxiang took a deep breath, shook his hands backwards, and the windbreaker floated up, seeming to shake off the last bit of hesitation and nervousness on his body. Finally, his right arm slightly curved forward, his left arm naturally drooped backwards, and his right foot slammed on the ground, bouncing his body out like a suddenly released spring. His every step was precise and powerful, his speed getting faster and faster, and the windbreaker hunting made a sound. Suddenly, he rose into the air and his feet lifted off the ground. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters. His feet surprisingly reached a height of 4 meters, lying in bed. Yuxiang let out a scream. He jumped too high. His stomach hit the horizontal branch, and his entire body immediately rotated 180 degrees clockwise, with his feet facing upwards and his head facing downwards. This spinning motion is a bit like abdominal winding in a horizontal bar competition, except that both hands are off the bar. After bypassing the branches, Yuxiang plunged straight into the ground with the simplest diving motion 101A. A forward somersault and a straight body, with an acceleration of 1g. Done, done. Watching the ground rapidly approaching him, Yuxiang thought to himself that he was about to die and curl up. Suddenly, at this critical moment, his body made a stunning adjustment, rotating 180 degrees again, his feet firmly on the ground, his right leg quickly half kneeling on the ground, his right hand supporting the ground with one palm, and his left hand resting on his left knee, bowing his back and looking forward with his head raised. This posture was very similar to Pangu's first appearance in front of him, but at this moment, Xuanhuan's hand was missing a giant axe. Chapter 8. Encountering the White Tiger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is that okay? Huh, I really can fly with his meowing, right? Xuanhuan exclaimed excitedly. The landing position was really cool and pressing, and there was no pain at all. He even felt that his muscles and bones were much more relaxed. He bounced up and looked up at the towering horizontal branch, which seemed to be within reach. Can this be considered a lightness skill? Is it a ladder of clouds or a flying immortal outside the sky? Haha. Xuanhuan thought of various lightness techniques in the movie, and hearty laughter echoed on both sides of the river. A group of birds suddenly flew up from the trees across the bank, seeming to compete with their feathers to see who flew higher. Come on, I need to try again. This time, Xuanhuan's preparatory movements became much smoother and more agile. He took a few steps back, made some adjustments, and then bounced out. With a loud bang, Xuanhuan tightly hugged the horizontal branch with both hands, and continued to swing his body forward. He exerted force on his waist, and his legs swung up just above the horizontal branch. He then turned around, and his entire upper body crawled onto the branch, and his legs immediately grabbed onto the branch. Wow, this is too high. Xuanhuan grinned excitedly and looked at the campfire not far from the tree. At this moment, the flames seemed excited and soared high, but to Xuanhuan, they appeared so small. Looking under the tree, Xuanhuan planned to land in a safe way. He simply estimated the height and jumped down without flipping in the air. At the moment of touchdown, he habitually squatted to cushion and stood steadily. Is it that simple? Next, Xuanhuan tried a few more times, and in the last 2 attempts, he tried to rush towards the trunk of the big tree, kicking it a few times. With this force, he surprisingly stood easily on the thick horizontal branch. After several attempts, Xuanhuan felt a bit tired and returned to the campfire to sit down and rest for a while. The boundless illusion is gone, but this lightness skill is not bad either. Let's practice it well next. He plans to focus on practicing lightness skills in the next few days, which is too important for survival in the wild. If I could really practice flying eaves and walls, stepping on snow without a trace, or like taking gentle steps on waves, then I would be like adding wings to a tiger. Xuanhuan murmured to himself, but just as he was about to say this, suddenly a strong wind rose from the opposite bank of the river, striking fiercely from Xuanhuan's right side, almost overturning him to the ground. Under the attack of the strong wind, the campfire instantly dispersed, with fire branches flying out in the wind, making a clattering sound and heading straight towards a patch of trees. The strong wind passed by, and the grass on the ground was pressed down to crawl against the ground, while the trees, regardless of height, fat, or thinness, all tilted with the wind, and none of them could bend their backs. Xuanhuan leaned down, half kneeling on the ground against the wind. His windbreaker on his back was pulled straight by the wind, parallel to the ground, with only his tail rapidly twitching up and down. He tightly grabbed a handful of grass with his left hand, half of his 5 fingers stuck in the soil, and his right arm crossed his forehead to protect his head, tilting his head to avoid the wind. Close your eyes tightly, clasp your upper teeth on your lower lip, and dare not speak, using only your nose to slowly catch your breath. Ahem. A sudden and earth-shattering roar. It was the roar of a fierce tiger, with a hint of sadness in its fury. Exploded across the river and came from the wind. The wind suddenly weakened, and the grass and trees slowly straightened their waists, but the scattered fire branches spread into a fire belt, igniting a tree at the other end. The fire spread over 10 meters wide, accompanied by the sound of burning explosions, still crazily stretching its own front line. The blazing flames mercilessly licked the trunk of the tree, competing with each other to reach higher ground, greedily devouring every inch of branches and leaves. The flames shot up into the sky, and the night sky was dyed a deep red. Every inch of land touched by the flames was covered with an orange-red halo, and the dim night became like daylight. Xuanhuan quickly jumped up and followed the sound, his gaze scanning the other side of the river in terror. It's the tree where a group of deer escaped in the morning, and suddenly a few panicked shadows appeared. In the firelight, Xuanhuan distinguished that the chubby one was a wild boar, thin and small like a fox, and there was also a monkey shuttling high in the treetop, emitting screams. Crouching trough, is there really a tiger? What do you say? Xuanhuan clenched his fists tightly, and in a moment of panic, he worked hard to calm himself down. The fire behind him became increasingly fierce, and Xuanhuan's back was scorching hot. He couldn't even turn back to face the flames, and the waves of heat would only make him unable to breathe. He decided to go to the river, closer to the dense forest across the river, although it meant greater danger. He walked step by step towards the riverbank, although somewhat fearful, his heart was more curious, even hopeful. Approaching the water surface, Xuanhuan noticed that there seemed to be subtle ripples on the river surface, coming from the opposite bank one after another. Xuanhuan had just arrived at the water's edge when he suddenly saw a huge object jump out of the forest. At first glance, it was almost as tall as himself. Tiger! Xuanhuan let out a loud cry, frightened and puzzled. What frightened him was that it was indeed the majestic posture of a tiger, and what puzzled him was that it seemed to be a black and white tiger. Xuanhuan was so scared that he almost slipped into the water. Fortunately, he was already prepared in his heart. He quickly stabilized his balance, arched his body, and laid his fists horizontally on his chest, ready for a fight. The fierce tiger slapped its two front paws on the ground a few times, turned its head to look in the direction of Xuanhuan, and let out a low growl. Without a moment's hesitation, the tiger leaped high and rushed towards the wings at lightning speed. Sleeping trough, finished. Xuanhuan opened his mouth wide and closed his throat tightly, but couldn't make any sound. He thought to himself that he would spend his life here tonight. He froze in place, his legs sinking into a mud pit, unable to move at all. Sweat and hair instantly stood up, as if the whole body was electrified by static electricity. The nostrils are wide open, as if to inhale all the air to calm the fear in the heart. Suddenly, Xuanhuan's eyebrows furrowed fiercely, his eyes tightened slightly, his pupils dilated at an extremely fast pace, and the world in his eyes seemed to slow down in an instant. In his eyes, the fierce tiger slowly leaped into the air, and every hair on its round head was clearly distinguishable. Yes, it was a white tiger. White tiger has two round big ears on its head, and in the firelight, a faint pink color can still be seen in the middle of the ears. There are three thick black lines on both sides of the forehead, which are slightly messy, but overall form a king character, which is full of dominance against the backdrop of white hair. The tiger's eyes are wide open, with pale blue irises on the yellow eyeballs, resembling beautiful gemstones. Xuanhuan took a visual inspection and found that white tiger's eyes were 5.878 centimeters high and 6.666 centimeters wide on both sides, with an error of plus or minus 0.001 centimeters. The tip of Baihu's nose is pink, looking like a heart, and his nostrils exhale wisps of hot air. There are 18 long tiger whiskers on each side of the nose, neatly arranged as if carefully combed. Xuanhuan watched the white tiger with alertness and calmness, like a dancing white silk gradually approaching him. The white tiger reached the opposite bank of the river, jumped up and flew up to the center, with its front legs parted, as if it was about to give Xuanhuan a big hug. Xuanhuan remained calm as he watched as white tiger's front paw pounced frame by frame towards his chest. 100.00 centimeters, 50.00 centimeters, 10.00 centimeters, 1.00 centimeters, 0.01 centimeters. In the firelight, the red figure of Xuanhuan flashed and jumped 3 meters to the side in an instant. The white tiger pounced into the air, and upon landing, its massive body lay horizontally in front of Xuanhuan. The white tiger didn't pause at all, twisted its waist and hips, and a thick tiger tail swept towards Xuanhuan, almost pulling it to Yuxiang's waist. A spring onion was plucked from a dry land, and its feathers leaped up at lightning speed. When it landed, it was already on the other side of the white tiger. With another roar of the tiger, Yuxiang felt his eardrum almost crack, but he dared not relax at all. The white tiger bared its sharp teeth, as white as snow, turned its head and rushed towards Yuxiang again. This time, Yuxiang's feet just lightly exerted force and jumped straight up. The white tiger pounced again, and Yuxiang's toes happened to touch the back of the tiger. He was riding on the white tiger. Yuxiang lay on the back of the tiger, tightly embracing the neck of the white tiger with both arms. No matter how the white tiger flipped, he refused to let go, and he couldn't let go either. One person, one tiger, people riding tigers, tigers carrying people, jumping up and down, moving left and right in the background of a raging fire. What is the difficulty of riding a tiger? Yuxiang's current state is difficult to get off while riding a tiger. Although he tossed and turned on the back of the tiger, Yuxiang felt that the white tiger's fur was very soft, and the tiger's body temperature made his chest, abdomen, and legs very comfortable. Yuxiang couldn't help but caress the back of the white tiger's neck with his face, enjoying the tenderness. He even smelled a faint fragrance, which made him feel a little drowsy. After tossing and turning for more than 10 minutes, the white tiger finally got tired and crawled on the edge of the water, stretching its legs forward. The tiger's head rested on its legs, panting heavily, and its tail casually dropped to the ground, only occasionally swaying its tip. Yuxiang took the opportunity to stand up, propping his hands on the back of the tiger, and flew to the side with a shout, standing 4 or 5 meters away from the tiger. Yuxiang turned around and looked at the white tiger. The white tiger turned its head and looked at Yuxiang, while the human and tiger eyes met. Chapter 9. She is a mother tiger, she is simply my dream love tiger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Are you tired so quickly? Let's keep playing, Yuxiang happily said to Bai Hu, with a proud expression on his face. Apart from his arms being a bit tired, he felt very comfortable all over, feeling like he had done a deep massage on the back of the tiger. White tiger's breathing was deep and powerful, his eyes still round and staring at Yuxiang, showing his anger with a grimace. Then he turned his head and rested it on his front leg, closing his eyes to rest, too lazy to pay attention to Yuxiang. Don't sleep, I haven't had enough fun yet. Facing the giant beast in front of him, Yuxiang not only showed no fear at all, but was even very excited. He took a few steps forward, wanting to get closer to the white tiger. Dabai, get up quickly and don't slack off. In the flames of the burning trees, the tiger's snow-white fur also reflected a faint orange-red color, flickering with the flames. The black stripes are arranged haphazardly from the top of the head to the buttocks, with each pattern meticulously crafted by top painters. The circular patterns on the tail resemble hair loops woven from black silk, adding some agility and playfulness to the originally sturdy tail. Wow, you're a mother tiger, haha. Dabai, you're so cute, you're so fat, you're just my dream tiger, haha. Yuxiang couldn't help but burst out laughing. The distance between him and the white tiger was only within a few feet, and he could clearly see that it was a female tiger. With a large, round but still slender figure right in front of him, and his entire body rising and falling with each breath. White tiger still lay quietly on the ground, with no intention of going to war. Yuxiang began to savor the beautiful big cat in front of him, from beginning to end, from end to end. The more he looked at it, the more beautiful it became, and the more he liked it. By the way, Bai, can you be my mount? Let me ride you, isn't that handsome? Staring at Bai Hu for a while, Yuxiang suddenly had this strange idea and shouted loudly. He looked delighted and felt that his idea was very creative. Ha! Bai Hu suddenly turned her head and glared at Yuxiang, while taking a deep breath. She seemed to understand Yuxiang's meaning and angrily expressed her dissatisfaction. You think so? I'm serious, Bai. Don't worry, I won't bully you. I won't ride you all the time unless you're really tired, okay? Yuxiang smiled and stared affectionately into Baihu's eyes, showing his sincerity with a gentle gaze. However, before he could finish speaking, Baihu propped up his front palms, shook his body, and suddenly stood up. Ahem. The tiger's head quickly swung towards Yuxiang, showing its teeth, clearly wanting to give Yuxiang a bite and let him know its strength. Don't think that if the tiger doesn't show off, it's just a sick cat. But her movements were too slow for Yuxiang. Yuxiang only made a small jump and then retreated 3 meters away. Don't be angry, I really think so. Follow me from now on. Yuxiang still looked at the white tiger with a serious expression on his face, accompanied by gestures, indicating that he had no joking words. He slapped his chest hard and then spread out his hands to the tiger. Unexpectedly, Baihu didn't appreciate it and continued to charge towards Yuxiang. However, this time it seemed like a tentative scare, and as soon as he took one step, he stopped. Quickly leave, if he doesn't leave again, I will bite you. It seems that Baihu is well aware that she has no choice but to scare Yuxiang away and does not want to hear his true confession to her anymore. Calm down, Bai. We're not angry. Think about it again. Yuxiang was not frightened by Baihu's false move. He just pretended to be surprised, with a hint of grievance on his face. He pressed down his palms and comforted Baihu. Ha! Baihu is not interested in such advice. She gets tired of Yuxiang's nagging and exhales a sigh at Yuxiang. Cut, I'm too lazy to talk to you. Then, White Tiger turned around with his back to Yuxiang, walked in heavy footsteps, and slowly left along the riverbank. Hey, don't go, Dabai, don't go. Yuxiang didn't want Baihu to just leave him like this, so he took small steps and ran quickly, keeping up closely. A white tiger in front and a red dress at the back. The big fire behind them was burning stronger and stronger, dancing seductively as it was about to rush to the top of the big tree. Above the flames was thick white smoke, blown away by gusts of fresh wind. In the blazing fire, dry and damp branches and leaves were playing percussion with a crackling sound, occasionally accompanied by a sharp whistling sound, as if blowing a whistle. This flame, this light, this sound, like the accompaniment, lighting, and band on stage, contributed extraordinary light and shadow effects and BGM, background music, to the human-tiger fight just now, creating an exciting stage effect. But now, it's like a group of onlookers eating melons, laughing and making noise, watching one person and one tiger making a fuss on the side. A white tiger in front and a red dress at the back. White Tiger walked ahead angrily without looking back, Yuxiang closely followed behind, pleading earnestly. Dabai, Xiao Bai, Bai, please walk slowly and don't get angry. White Tiger showed no response, taking cat steps and twisting his body, stubbornly continuing forward. Bai, your walking posture is really beautiful, just like a model. Wait for me. White Tiger actually quickened its pace. Bai, I won't ride you anymore. You just need to accompany me. It's so comfortable holding you. You don't need to be my mount anymore, just be my pillow. The white tiger continued to move forward at a brisk pace, panting with anger. You must be hungry, I'll make you delicious food, and I'll take you on a trip in the future. We'll go everywhere. Suddenly, Baihu stopped and turned to look at Yuxiang, shaking her head. Her eyes reflected a distant flame, bright and lively, with half surprise and half doubt. Are you true, you really help me find food? Really. You have to believe me. I see you've been busy all day, and it seems like you haven't caught any prey. As long as you and I are together, I can help you hunt. This way, you can have meat to eat every day and eat whatever you want. Bai, don't you think this is good? Yuxiang seemed to be moved by the big white cat in front of her and quickly began to depict a beautiful future for her. And White Tiger's anger seemed to dissipate. Her imposing face was calm, and she turned to face Yuxiang. Her big eyes blinked and blinked. You keep talking, let me listen. The two of us are together, that's a strong alliance, fighting invincible battles in the world. Wherever you want to go, you can go. I want to take you around and take a look. White Tiger slowly walked up to Yuxiang, her ears already touching Yuxiang's chin. She looked up at Yuxiang, her pale blue eyes shining in the firelight. What else? Moreover, it's really comfortable to hold you. If I sleep with you every night, I don't even need to make a bed or blanket. Haha. Oh, if you're tired, I can help you massage your back, legs, and massage. Yuxiang showed no fear at all, gently caressing the round head of the white tiger with both hands. The white tiger obediently moved its ears and extended its tongue to lick the tip of its nose. Suddenly, the white tiger's front legs jumped up, with two basin-sized tiger palms resting on Yuxiang's shoulders, looking straight into Yuxiang's eyes. Well, I believe what you say. Yuxiang was almost moved to tears by the sudden tenderness of the white tiger, but the strength of the tiger's palm was too great. His current strength was not enough to withstand the heavy body of the white tiger. With a thud, he sat down on the ground. This time, White Tiger actually rode on Yuxiang's body, but she only lightly touched Yuxiang's forehead with the tip of her nose, lifted her head, and let out two heavy breaths. Huh, you're too weak, right? The raging flames engulfed the entire tree, and the orange-yellow intertwined flames had already rushed to the highest point. The sound of branches and leaves bursting in the flames was like a series of firecrackers ringing non-stop. The water surface reflects the light of fire, as well as the figure of one person and one tiger. Yuxiang rides on the back of the white tiger, holding a long torch in his hand, while the white tiger sprints towards the darkness in the distance. Chapter 10. Led by the mother tiger to a new home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where are you taking me, Dabai? Yuxiang asked softly. Under the starry night sky, his eyebrows furrowed slightly, and he reached out to gently stroke the soft neck of the white tiger. His doubts and curiosity grew stronger and stronger like the night. One person and one tiger walked for an unknown amount of time, and the towering fire behind them was like a candle that had just been extinguished, leaving only a faint green smoke that rose, spread, and finally dissipated invisibly in the distant starry sky. The flames of the torch gradually weakened, and the surrounding vision became increasingly blurred. The visible range became smaller and smaller, and the shadows of grass and trees were faintly visible. Yuxiang couldn't help but feel a little worried in his heart. You must be tired, Bai. Please let me down and I'll go with you. Yuxiang patted Bai Hu's big head and looked down at her, worried that she would be exhausted from not eating for a whole day. But Bai Hu clearly didn't mean to stop. She just shook her head gently and continued to drive with firm steps, as if she had a clear goal in her heart. I'll take you to a good place. Passing through a dense forest, the deep and strong sound of water flowing continuously came from afar, and the sound grew louder and louder, as if the rushing mountain torrents were roaring like giant beasts. Yuxiang tightly held the torch and leaned forward with the help of the remaining flame, trying his best to look forward. But at this moment, Yuxiang's vision lost its superpowers and only saw a darkness ahead, as if everything was swallowed up in endless nights. Dabai, what's this sound? What's ahead? Is it a big river or a waterfall? Yuxiang touched Bai Hu's big head again and bent down to look at her eyes. She was calm and her blue eyes were shining with a mysterious light. Suddenly, the white tiger jumped lightly and jumped over a narrow stream. After landing, it stopped and stared ahead, shaking its massive body. Come down, we're here. Where is this, big white? In the night, the voice of the wings was somewhat ethereal. Yuxiang jumped off the white tiger, and in the faint glow of the fire, he could only see a small stream, but the sound of the stream was almost completely drowned out by the sound of the huge water flow that seemed far and near. White Tiger didn't hesitate for a moment and walked straight forward for more than 10 steps, seemingly familiar with this dark environment. She stopped in front of a few low trees and then turned to look at Yuxiang. Come over quickly. Yuxiang quickly chased after him, and as soon as he reached the dwarf tree, he discovered the mystery. Behind the dwarf tree was a stone wall, and a black hole was hidden on the back of the wall. The hole was even half his height. At this moment, Baihu stepped on the ground with his feet, and Yuxiang heard the sound of dry branches and leaves breaking. Don't you hurry up and light the fire. Ha, you're so smart, my great idiot. Quickly, another bonfire lit up by the stream, with enough light. It was only then that Yuxiang could see the surrounding environment clearly. Above the entrance of the cave is a steep cliff that cannot be seen from the top, with a straight and smooth surface, as if struck with a giant knife. The towering cliffs are unknown in width, but a small stream slowly flows along the foot of the stone wall, entering a forest at a distance of 30 to 40 meters. The other side of the cliff extends all the way into the distant night. I don't know where to go. Are you trying to bring me to this cave? I love you so much, bye. Now I don't even need to set up a tent, I don't need to sleep outdoors. Yuxiang touched the chubby face of the white tiger with both hands, looking delighted and grateful. The white tiger lightly bumped its head against Yuxiang's chest, then passed through the low tree and lightly burrowed into the hole. Come with me now. Yuxiang picked up a fire stick and followed behind the white tiger, entering the cave. The sound of the huge water flow behind him immediately became smaller and smaller. Wow, this is simply... Yuxiang was momentarily speechless, and words were no longer sufficient to describe the spectacle before him. This is a mansion. After walking about 10 meters inward from the cave entrance, Yuxiang's eyes suddenly lit up. A spacious cave appeared before him, and the towering ceiling almost disappeared into the darkness, like the dome of a large opera house. The ground below the dome is an irregular polygonal structure, very flat. This is much bigger than my family, isn't it true? Yuxiang walked inside to the center of the cave and felt like he had entered a grand auditorium. His gaze wandered around the cave. There are several small holes embedded in the walls around the cave, some of which are shallow, while others are deep and bottomless, pitch black, as if leading to another mysterious space. Baihu arrived at a corner of a cave, where there was a small pool of water. She lowered her head and took a few sips of water, then looked up at Yuxiang with warmth. It was very safe here. Let's sleep on this in the future. Yuxiang shouted happily at the white tiger, pointing to a square platform. This stone platform is right next to a shallow small hole, extending flat and completely like a naturally formed large bed. Yuxiang is already imagining the scene of lying on it. The white tiger naturally leaped onto the platform and lay down, squinting its eyes as it watched Yuxiang. Take your time to appreciate it. Make a fire here, and we can boil water and cook, Yuxiang ran excitedly to the center of the cave, where there were several thick and short stone pillars that could be used as chairs. He gestured with his hand on a piece of open space between the benches, as if a pile of fire had already started. Wait, will this lead to carbon monoxide poisoning? A worried thought came to his mind, and Yuxiang was somewhat disappointed, but soon he no longer had this concern because when he walked to a dark little hole on the wall, the flames of the torch were blown towards that hole by a gust of wind. This hole is ventilated. Yuxiang exclaimed in surprise, only then did he notice that a light wind blew in from the entrance of the cave and out of the small hole on the wall, creating a perfect circulation throughout the entire cave. The disappointment in Yuxiang's heart instantly dissipated. Not only was there air circulation inside, but it was also quiet and warm, different from the noisy and humid environment outside. He eagerly collected a pile of firewood outside the cave, and soon a bonfire ignited inside, illuminating the entire cave. Sitting on the stone bench next to the campfire, Yuxiang immersed himself in the wonder of this cave. He now understands what is truly unique. The white tiger on the stone platform stood up, raised its head and let out a soft roar. The echo bounced back from the dome. Look up. Yuxiang looked at the big cat and followed her guidance towards the dome. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he suddenly stood up. What is that? Above the cave, there are 5 large circular patterns drawn in 5 different colors, evenly distributed, forming a pentagon. In the middle of this pentagon, numerous seemingly chaotic line graphs are intertwined, with a small dot dotted at the junction of the lines. Xuanhuan counted carefully and surprisingly found 20.8 such line charts. I remember when my grandfather told me a story, he mentioned. It seems to be some 28 star chart. Are these just star charts? Xuanhuan also jumped onto the large stone platform and stood next to the white tiger, stroking its neck, trying to observe these patterns up close. Ha! Baihu let out a soft breath, and her head gently rubbed against Xuanhuan's chest. You're right. But what do those 5 circles mean? Are they? Xuanhuan stared at the 5 mysterious circles, seemingly enlightened, and suddenly remembered the words spoken by Pangu when he fell. The 5 elements spirit pearl, time and space crisscross. Yes, it is the 5 elements spirit pearl. Xuanhuan excitedly blurted out, waving his hands tightly around the neck of the white tiger. Isn't time and space traversing time and space? That is to say, as long as I have the 5 elements spirit pearl, I can go back to the future, back to my home. Xuanhuan buried his head on the soft neck of the white tiger and spoke with a slight choking voice, tears swirling in his eyes. He really wanted to go back to the future, back to his family. Late at night, the bonfire remained strong, illuminating every corner of the cave. On the huge stone platform, there were some dry thatched grass, and the white tiger lay on the grass. Feather Xiang lay on one side of the white tiger's abdomen, with his head resting on its legs, gazing at the star chart and the pattern of the 5 elements spirit pearl on the dome. This must be a hint left by Pangu for me. Do you know Pangu, the Bai? He is. The human tiger sleeps without sleep, and the feather tells its story to the white tiger. Why are you licking my face? It's killing me. Xuanhuan shouted loudly as soon as he opened his eyes. Baihu extended his wet tongue and gently swiped back and forth on Xuanhuan's face. He also arched Xuanhuan's stomach with his nose. Wake up, it's already dawn. Xuanhuan climbed up with one bone and rubbed his sleepy eyes. He saw several thin beams of light shining through the cave entrance, swaying, making the cave appear less dim. The bonfire next to Sherdeng had only a few sparks left, and a wisp of green smoke drifted towards the black hole on the wall. Let's go out and take a look. I'll take you to breakfast. After pressing a thick piece of wood on the fire, Xuanhuan and Baihu walked towards the cave entrance. Outside the cave, the morning light surges, awakening the entire world. The stream shimmered with golden light, and hundreds of meters ahead, a dense forest was quiet and deep. Xuanhuan found himself standing on an open grassland, adorned with various wild flowers, and several low trees scattered throughout the grassland, resembling a carefully arranged private garden. On the left side, the forest where the stream flows into unexpectedly blooms with pink flowers, resembling a peach grove. On the right side, the cliff extends several miles away, and at the end it connects to a short hill. The huge sound of the torrent still echoes in my ears, but it is no longer as loud as last night and appears even more dull. Xuanhuan followed the sound of water, followed the stream, passed through the fruit forest, and walked several hundred meters until he arrived at the edge of a cliff. The stream water poured down from here, and was then lifted up by the strong wind below the cliff, scattering into a large mist and flying upside down into the sky. That's... Xuanhuan exclaimed in surprise.